I am so excited to share this visual with you, this framework for discussion today. So discussion, hard to do, particularly around like presidential election years, any sort of political current event situation. We typically avoid talking about things like this. And part of it is because we're unable to diagnose what exactly is happening and then where do I go from there. So today I am giving you, but really this was developed by One Eye Cult. Initially, we adapted it, Dr. Sheree Bridges, Patrick, and myself, to publish in an adaptive leadership textbook. And I'm now sharing it with you because I think it's really helpful for educational leaders and educators in general to use to diagnose what's going on with my students or my staff, whoever we're talking about stakeholder-wise. And then we can move from there into generative discourse, which is what we want. These are the 4 quadrants of discourse. So in the top right-hand corner, we have what we want, which is generative mobilizing discourse. This is specifically, Dr. Sheree Bridges, Patrick, and I wrote this around racial justice conversations and conversations about race and racial injustice. So we are specifically using that lens, but I think it's general for a lot of justice-based conversations, which relates to a lot of current events, as we said. So generative mobilizing discourse, this is where we are achieving racial justice or intersectional justice. We engage our emotion. I think this is critical here. That's a hallmark of being in this quadrant. We experience, as you can see in these arrows here, the disequilibrium. And also imagination and possibility. We're not just repeating the same old. We're going somewhere new. And we're a little uncomfortable along the way. We're experiencing that disequilibrium in a positive way. Now, let's go in counterclockwise. So polarizing discourse. We're now in this quadrant 2, I believe, my math folks. And we are looking at folks who are defensive. They are entrenched in their position. They are not willing to move or see the other side. If we are even talking about it as sides, we, yes, are feeling that disequilibrium, sure. But it's not in a good way. We're reinforcing the past patterns of how we behave, and we're uncomfortable because we're just mad at everybody, right? Because we're just not able to engage, right? So in this scenario, our defenses are aroused, right? We have destructive patterns. We're not generating any sort of capacity. What do? We are going to go ahead and diagnose the system here. What are the cultural forces at play? What are the group norms, the dynamics that are really standing in the way of change? And then from there, we want to understand that what's happening is typically a lack of either desire to engage, have generative discourse, a lack of skill. I'm just not sure how to do this, right? I want to engage, but I don't know how to do it well and generatively. Perhaps a lack of knowledge. I just don't know the facts. I don't understand, or I have never heard before the other folks' experience or any sort of, knowledge base that I don't possess. And therefore, it's making me kind of stick to this. Or I don't have the support, right? Or maybe I don't have multiple of these things. Support being like, I don't have the perhaps space that has been developed and contained. I don't have opportunity to consistently build my skills and be taught, right? I don't have those structures in place that are going to help me get through this. The other one in this left kind of half of the screen, we have silencing and denying. So here we're still reinforcing past patterns. We kind of stick with the way things are. We don't want to be uncomfortable though, so we just avoid it. And so we're stuck in this equilibrium piece right here. So in silencing, denying, we are willfully avoiding the conversation. We often see in adaptive challenges, when things like this come up, we have maybe deflection of blame. Oh, this isn't our issue. This is the parent's fault, right? Or, oh, well, there's nothing I can do about that because that's a policy issue and the schools can't touch it, right? Or we make a joke, right? We divert attention. We laugh about something and then we move on to something more comfortable, right? So this idea of like, ooh, this is uncomfortable, this is risky, not willing to, rock the boat here. We're not building capacity here. We're just kind of continuing this cycle of like, we're thinking that, we are just going to continue the way things are and that's going to be fine, right? That's better than rocking the boat. It's not. And so to diagnose this, really what we can do is just name, this is what I'm seeing, right? I'm seeing that this topic was brought up and you made a joke, right? And no one said anything. Everyone looked at their lap, right? Just kind of observe what I see in like discourse communities, like meetings, for example. Like this is what we're noticing. I'm naming the avoidance, I'm pointing it out. And I'm pointing out how in the case of racial justice conversations and how racial dominance is presenting itself, right? Or how the status quo and whatever thing you're talking about is presenting itself, right? Then once you've diagnosed, you can act. Now, the final quadrant here is intellectualizing discourse. Very popular, in my opinion, among, like white feminists, for example, or really like white liberals in general, right? When we're talking about like a lot of things. Broadly, this is very didactic. It's in the head. It is not in the heart. So again, the difference here, emotion is here, no emotion here. We are happy with a little bit with our equilibrium, right? I'm happy to just kind of not get super uncomfortable. I'm just using my head, not my heart. We are imagining possibilities. We're saying, hey, I heard this on a podcast, right? And like, here's what could be possible in the future world. And I'd love to see this happen. But we're not engaging the emotion enough to experience the disequilibrium. What might be helpful here is a root cause analysis and really building up our capacity. Name, what are you fearing in terms of loss? What is the thing that's at risk if you get uncomfortable, right? If you experience that disequilibrium, if you engage the emotion, what are you fearful of losing, right? And really mobilize folks to grapple with the fear, the risk, the emotion that comes up. Some people don't have the, not necessarily capacity, but practice, right? The skills, the practice with dealing with emotion generatively, right? And so sometimes we have to build those skills for adults as well as students. SEL at the core. I want you to use this as a reflective tool at your next staff meeting, right? Or your next grade team meeting or PLC. I want you to observe a discussion at a class level, do a little observation walkthrough, see what types of discourses are present, and help the teacher make an action plan of where to go from there. Now, a huge piece of this is adaptive in nature. So I'm going to give you a link in the description below this video to my Diagnosing Adaptive Challenges Workbook, where you can get a full list of like what to look for as you're seeing maybe the avoidance, for example, and where to go from there. Good luck.